Alrighty, hello everyone. My name is Ryan Vogel, also formerly known as the tech person of PEP. It is also my free pass to get out of any class when any teacher calls me and says, hey Ryan, I need tech help. Anyways, I'm sure we all have devices just like this, that like a lot smaller though. Please refrain from being on your device. I don't care if you're on your device, but make sure that you turn off Wi-Fi because as in the back, as you can see, we are streaming this event. And if you're on your phone and you have Wi-Fi on, that uses up bandwidth, and you're basically making it so that other people cannot watch the event on live stream. So now how do you feel about yourself? Exactly. So let's make sure to go on to that Wi-Fi, turn off that Wi-Fi, or at least disable it for today, and we were all good.
All right. Well, our first speaker is Ryan Vogel. He's been attending PEP since Core A. He plans to attend UNF Hicks Honors College for Information Technology. He's presenting Chips and Salsa AI, why AI and quantum computers are the path to a smarter and safer world.
We live in a day and age where computers and robots are a part of our daily lives. We constantly are surrounded by laptops, web pages, apps, and phones. We turn on the news and we hear about data breaches and cyber leaks and artificial intelligence, and we think, that doesn't really apply to us, right? Wrong. Those most definitely apply to you. Picture this scenario with me. You get up in the morning, you get in your car, and Siri auto orders your drink at Starbucks. When you arrive at that Starbucks, your app automatically communicates with the store, and you don't even have to talk to the person, and you just pick up your drink. Then, when you arrive at work, you automatically scan your ID badge, and you're let in instantly. Or take this for example. You and your family are going on your yearly family Disney trip and you route it in Google Maps. Google automatically calculates all of the factors and gets you there almost at the exact amount of time it predicts. All of this is made possible by a technological advancement called artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, or AI for short, is all about using computers to learn and mimic the way that humans learn. AI is a term that most people associate with science fiction films in which a big bad beast of an AI goes and takes over the planet and forces everyone to live in an AI-controlled state. How many of y'all, by a raise of hand, actually know how an AI works? Okay. Awesome. So not many people do know how an AI works. To really understand how an AI works, we need to understand the brain of the program. That brain, in this case, is called a neural network. A neural network is made up of 3 layers. That first layer is going to be the input layer. That input layer is where all of your images, your data, your text, anything that you want to put in to the neural network is put in. Next, we have that hidden layer. Hidden layer is essentially where all the algorithms, the processing, the weights, all the complex stuff that you see on the news is processed. Then, to display it all so that we can read it and use it, we have something called the output layer. That output layer is where it essentially puts all the text into a readable form and fashion where we can use it, apply it, and read it. This may appear a bit confusing, and that's exactly what it is. I fully didn't have a good idea of what neural networks were or how they worked until I started researching them for this speech. But I found a video by Veritasium that explains it rather well. To preface the video, a neural network learns like any human or creature would, by trial and error. This means that the neural network has to be trained, and that training is often overseen by a human to make sure that they are learning and being trained correctly. In this video, he'll reference something called a weights file. You don't need to worry a bunch about that. That's essentially just the memory of the AI.
Be trained, that is, shown a series of different circles and rectangles, and have its weights adjusted accordingly. We can visualize the weights as an image, since there's a unique weight for each pixel of the image. Initially, Rosenblatt set all the weights to 0. If the perceptron's output is correct, for example, here it's shown a rectangle and the output neuron doesn't fire, no change is made to the weights. But if it's wrong, then the weights are adjusted. The algorithm for updating the weights is remarkably simple. Here, the output neuron didn't fire when it was supposed to because it was shown a circle. So to modify the weights, you simply add the input activations to the weights. If the output neuron fires when it shouldn't, like here when shown a rectangle, well then you subtract the input activations from the weights. And you keep doing this until the perceptron correctly identifies all the training images. It was shown that this algorithm will always converge so long as it's possible to map the two categories into distinct groups.
So essentially, that's just showing how it will add information to the brain and remove information from the brain to make it learn correctly. This is a very obviously simple example of how artificial intelligences and neural networks work, but that's a good enough understanding where anybody could grasp it. Many people believe that true AI does not exist right now and is only a theoretical idea, but they would be wrong. For example, when you and your family were going to Disney and using Google Maps, it had to factor in the road conditions, traffic conditions, construction statuses, and cop cars, and tons of other stuff like that. And it compiled all of that data within a split second to produce you your route. Or for example, when your Starbucks app auto-ordered your drink, Apple has on-device trends on your phone that can detect what you do every day. For example, a lot of you have seen this notification. Since we've all gone to PEP for about 18,000 years on every Tuesday and Thursday, your iPhone has picked up that every morning at Tuesday on Thursday, you go to PEP, Christian Family Chapel, at 8 a.m. So at least for my phone, it showed up every morning at 7:50. Hey, your drive to PEP is going to take about 5 minutes. Unfortunately, AI gets a bad reputation. People think of AI-type programs as privacy invasive, unconsented facial recognition, and big tech collecting and selling my data. That's what I hope to debunk in this speech. If we apply artificial intelligence capabilities to cybersecurity, we can create a more privacy-centered and data-secure world. Cybersecurity is a highly relevant topic in today's day and age. We are constantly hearing about data breaches, cyber attacks, and data privacy. But what does all of this mean, and how is AI impacting this field of study? Cybersecurity, defined by IBM, is the practice of protecting critical systems and sensitive information from digital attacks. To better understand this, picture an office building. On the outside of this office building, there are doors and locks to make sure that only authorized users can get in. In the same way, a computer has a login system to make sure that only users with the correct username and password can get in. Now, what does AI have to do with this? To put this into perspective, imagine you work at this office building, and every day at 9 a.m., you go in, you scan your ID badge, but at the front desk, there is no front desk attendant person to make sure that you match the person on your ID badge. Then, after you scan your badge, you go up to the third floor and go to cubicle 310. Then, from 9 to 5, you excruciatingly work in your cubicle doing work-related tasks. Then, at 5 o'clock, you clock out and go home. Now, let's say one day you are in a Publix and you drop your ID badge. Some random stranger picks it up and finds the details of where your office is located. Then the next day, on a Saturday, that stranger walks in at 10 a.m., goes up to floor 5, and starts rummaging and looking through files. Then, at 12 o'clock, they put all the files in their briefcase and walk right out. Nobody even cares or lifts a finger because from the company side of you, they thought you did all of that. This is very similar to what a bad actor could do if they guessed or took your username and password. For example, something like this. If you use a weak password like 1234567 and a username John Appleseed where it's your first and last name, that is easily guessed and easily hackable. And if someone were to acquire this information, they would let you into that program or software login because they think it's you logging in, because only you should have your login information. That random stranger could log into your account and run malicious software or steal personal company files or anything like that. AI can impact this by being able to detect the daily trends and make sure that only the authorized people can get in. It can monitor the habits of all of the employees daily. So if an unauthorized person were to get in or steal your information and start snooping around, it could pick it up that a trend has changed. Then it could contact a system administrator and contact you to make sure whether it was you or a bad person. Many of you have actually probably experienced this before. Anyone recognize these prompts? This is Google's AI making sure that you are you. So this will often happen when you're setting up a new computer, device, phone, laptop, anything like that, and it will send a notification to your phone. And it does this by making sure that the new device communicates with the old device and says, hey, is this you? Because they know that you have that old device physically with you. This stuff is very important in that two-factor authentication because Phishing is very important and evident these days. If you don't know what phishing is, let me demonstrate a quick example. Everyone look at this page. This looks like a regular Google page, but if we take a look closer, that right there does not say Google, that says Google. And that does not equal google.com. If some person quickly looked at that web page and said, hey, that looks like Google, it looks like Google enough, then they would be able to input their Google information, and the attacker would be able to get that Google information and log into their account. And that user that inputted their Google account information could essentially consider their account compromised. And just to show you how simple this stuff is, I made that website. I copied it, I created it, everything like that. And I'm 17, so just imagine if some old guy with 18 monitors can do it in his 40s. Think on that for a second. This is why AI is so important. Before these technologies existed, companies would hire employees to look through access logs to see who was logging on and logging off and detect trends to ensure that nothing suspicious was happening. Companies can implement AI like this to monitor the systems and computer networks to ensure that nobody can sneak in and steal personal data. Quantum computers play a big part in this because they have more processing power with much smaller equipment. One big thing about quantum computers is quantum encryption. Quantum encryption is important because it provides a much more secure and privacy-centered approach. Essentially, how a quantum computer system would work is if person A were to send a quantumly encrypted file to person B over here, and me, person C, in the middle were to intercept that file, person B over there could see that the file has been changed. That may be a bit confusing, so I have this awesome analogy. Let's say Skylar wants to send a letter to Kat. Skylar wants to send a letter to Kat. I intercept this top secret message, and as you can notice at the back, it's sealed. But I'm a hacker, and I'm like, and then I open up the file and see, oh, that's my transcript. Oof, don't want to look at that. Anyways, I package the file back up, and then I deliver it to Kat. Now, Kat looks at the file and says, hey, this file has been changed. The makeup of the file, the transcript inside of it has not been changed, but the pure makeup of the file has been changed. Thank you. So, quantum encryption, artificial intelligence, and everything like that is made so that we can better understand, have better encryption and better privacy in an ever-changing world. To learn more about this, I interviewed Scott Pearsall, a professor at UNF. He is currently writing his doctorate dissertation about neural networks and quantum computing. I asked him how he thinks that quantum computers and cybersecurity will upgrade our existing models of security. He said that quantum computing will totally upgrade our existing models of cybersecurity. Most of our cybersecurity and encryption and privacy technologies rely on the fact that it takes a classical computer a very long amount of time to factor large prime numbers. When we try to apply that same type of encryption to a quantum computer, he says that a quantum computer can do it nearly instantaneously. And so when we have a fully working, built quantum computer, all of our existing encryption and privacy technologies can basically be considered compromised, because any prime number keys or security keys can be brute forced instantly. But to alleviate everyone's fears, he goes on to say that when we have more quantum computers in the world, we will have more quantum encryption, and that we will have a much safer and secure world. Wrapping up, AI and quantum computers are needed to shape the future because we need privacy and security rights in a chaotic, ever-changing world. Another way AI is being implemented is by tracking our buying habits. This sounds bad at face value, but let me explain the good side. In 2008, a girl kept getting ads and coupons from Target for maternity and nursery products. The girl's father was obviously upset with Target and thought that Target was trying to encourage his underage daughter to get pregnant. The Target store manager had no idea why this was happening. Then, a few days later, the father called back and said, I talked with my daughter. It turns out there have been some activities in my house that I have not been completely aware of. She's due in August. I owe you an apology. Target had associated the girl's account with a high pregnancy score. This is because she bought certain vitamins, supplements, and her eating habits had changed, and she also purchased certain maternity products. Situations like these are often difficult to interpret on whether they're ethical or not. We have to look at it from a biblical worldview. One could argue that Target did nothing wrong and their AI was built to make sure that they could provide for pregnant mothers and give them discounts on the items that they would need to buy. The main problem in this scenario is that the girl was not being truthful about her actions to her father. But on the other hand, people will side with this is invasive of my privacy argument. In a way, it is. These companies are collecting and selling your data without your direct consent to do so. How many of you, by a raise of hands, have Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, or any other type of social media? Basically everybody. All of you are being tracked on these social networks, but not as you think. You're being tracked on what posts you like, what posts you scroll past, what posts you scroll past and scroll back up because something caught your eye. This is all stuff those apps do, and on face value, it's scary. They track you to make sure that they can cater their ads to you in the best way possible so that you will buy them. And in some way, these social media apps know you better than you know yourself. It makes sense too, because these people's businesses is to get people to scroll on the platform and show you ads so that you will buy the ads so that they can get money from those ads. People are often worried that the tracking and the data collection from these sites and apps looks like this, where it's all formatted perfectly and it shows how much money you have in your bank account and how many posts you've liked and all this stuff and like how much money you spent at the grocery store and transportation. And you spent a lot of stuff at grocery stores and housing and stuff like that. But fear not, because this is what real tracking looks like. Huge databases and huge Excel spreadsheets with uncomprehendable data, and it wouldn't be very easy to understand even if you were able to acquire these products. People are very sensitive to the term tracking these days. Nowadays, it's impossible not to be tracked. Like I said at the beginning, if you own any type of computer, phone, laptop, you're being tracked, but not as you think. The companies that are trying to track you are not trying to find out where you are, but they're trying to find out what you like. That way they can suggest different products and services that you're more likely to buy. Unless you're involved with some major fraud or criminal activity, which we won't address today, the only reason any company would want to track you is to cater their experience of their app to you. The topics of artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and quantum computing are often to immediately understand in terms of the Bible. It's not as if we can refer to Hezekiah 6:66 and read that it says, "Thou shalt not use AI." It's not that simple. We gotta dive deeper and gain a better understanding of the morality of the argument. Artificial intelligence, on the surface, is like any other computer or tool. It has a specific use case, and it is utilized for that use case. To understand this better, think of an AI that's used to track as a pair of binoculars. If someone were to use that pair of binoculars to spy on someone else, are the binoculars committing the evil act or the stalking? No. They're simply the tool the evil user has chosen to use. In the same way, if someone uses AI to track or stalk somebody, the AI is not tracking them and stalking them on their own. It's the person that's implementing the AI. In the same way, AI, as of right now, cannot make or think any conscious decisions for themselves. Therefore, we must keep up and be knowledgeable about current events in these fields. We know that God has given man an amazing mind and spirit to be able to create and craft different inventions, but how far should we go? Ephesians 2:10 says that we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works which God prepared beforehand. If we are creating an artificial God that could be considered an idol, we have obviously taken it way too far. Thankfully, as I know of, we do not have any artificial intelligence overlords in our daily lives, but that does not mean they will never exist. Always investigate the fine print associated with the services offered by Apple, Google, or any other big company. In conclusion, artificial intelligence and AI-powered services are ultimately beneficial to us because they can assist us in improving our daily lives while simultaneously being and providing a more secure future. In any case, we must be mindful of the fine print, as well as the use cases that demonstrate how technology can be abused if it is not properly controlled and governed. The term AI, or artificial intelligence, will often be used in media and news articles to bring up hate against the field with derogatory terms. Those writers, just like you, have their own points of view and opinions, and those opinions are not always founded on a biblical worldview. To be sure, though, read through those pieces from the perspective of a biblical worldview, then come up with your own interpretations of what you've discovered. Make your decisions without taking into consideration the opinions, examine the facts, and make your decisions. Thank you.